Yeah, I think from a valuation perspective, the industry has come under tremendous pressure over the last 12 months, and it's been very challenging for the industry to support its workforces, especially when secured lending volume has been so dramatically down. Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Super Prime UK with your MJ Group Super Prime specialist valuers, myself, Rob Cohen.
Myself, James Wild.
Hope you're all well. I've been away for a few weeks, so this is our first post-summer edition, although the UK is seeing that Indian summer that I hoped and wished us all for when we were facing those gloomy early August wintry weather storms. So long may it continue. James, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks, Rob. And good to have you back.
Wouldn't be here without you, our loyal subscribers, followers, watchers, listeners that have been with us on this brilliant journey of providing market intel, data, updates in the property sector, the finance sector, and the general economy. We've amassed a great following and support, and hopefully provided some great nuggets and information for the market over the years.
That's it. Thanks, Rob. So in terms of the data this week, Rob, I was just doing some pre-show research, and if you look at the articles surrounding interest rates, obviously base rate potentially staying at its rising, inflation, there's such a differing of opinion from a lot of the analysts in the press, and it's really difficult to decipher which way the market is going. So we'll try and stick to what the market trends are and things which we're seeing on the ground in the market, which then often snowball, and they then create the statistics which we see 1, 2, 3 months later down the line. In terms of what we're seeing in terms of new instructions here in London, these are slightly subdued at the moment. The latest sort of data we're seeing is around 240s, 280 new instructions per week. This is normally 350 to 400 in slightly stronger markets, Rob. So as we move into September now, hopefully this sparks the return of activity. A lot of people returning to work, obviously after the summer holidays. Is a very historical, seasonally popular period in the market for buyers to enter the market and to look to acquire property. So we're going to have to see what happens during this month of September, October, and as we move into autumn there. Sold figures for London have remained fairly robust the last few weeks, Rob, 146 and then a couple of weeks in the 130s. So it hasn't quite been the same case in London to what we're seeing in the rest of the UK, which we'll come on to later in the show in terms of those property transaction volumes which we're seeing in the UK.
Yeah, I think from a valuation perspective, the industry has come under tremendous pressure over the last 12 months, and it's been very challenging for the industry to support its workforces, especially when secured lending volume has been so dramatically down based on obviously the interest rate position and the inflationary position and the economic position, and that has resulted in job losses, unfortunately, and it does make it a challenging space. We obviously work in a lot of the specialist areas alongside some mainstream lending areas, but ultimately it's challenging out there, and I don't think we're going to see the end of that. I think the last quarter of 2023 is going to continue the challenging trend as we move on into next year.
Yeah, definitely, Rob. It's just hopefully the economy, which it seems to have done so far, is sufficiently robust to avoid that technical recession. Because I think that's a sort of a major swing in any sort of pendulum of momentum for the economy, the businesses, investors, and consumer confidence ultimately. In terms of some commercial real estate activity, Rob, which we're seeing in the market the past week, most of the news has been surrounding Wilko, but since they went into administration. The discount retailer B&M has now acquired or agreed a deal so far, 13 million for 51 of the Wilko stores. However, there will still be some job losses and redundancies, Rob, from that collapse of Wilko. Their support centres, their distribution centres, there will be redundancies throughout most of those centres. The current staffing of the 51 stores, it's unclear how that staffing will transition, as B&M will already have their own pool of staff. However, hopefully a number of them will transition into the new stores. Hopefully, if the deal goes through, rebranding will take place later this year, and there won't be any more gaps on the high street. As we said, Rob, the last few years, retail warehousing, immensely popular, hugely competitive. We possibly saw the peak of that market 12, 18 months ago. Some really toppy deals went through in terms of very compressed yields, which they were acquired for. Lidl's opened up its largest ever distribution centre in Luton, part of a wider push for opening a number of new stores, their expansion, trying to battle back some of the market share in that supermarket sector.
Yeah, I think the Lidl Aldi space will strengthen over the last quarter of 2023 as the inflationary food pricing peaks and starts to come down. I think it will be more attractive for the budget supermarkets such as Lidl and Aldi to be even more competitive and gain further market share, and I think they're going to have a strong end of 2023.
Yeah, and just some more high street news, Rob. Just in terms of those retails on the high street, it really is sort of a tale of two stories. You've got the likes of Aldi and Lidl, budget supermarkets doing phenomenally well, and they are on an expansion push. However, the likes of Wilko at the other end of the sector have been struggling for a few years now and obviously gone into administration. You've got the Works, which are arts, gifts, books, stationery store. They're also still in profit, but obviously been hit by a similar wave of the cost of living and possibly the way they position themselves on the high street and their inferior online presence to some of the other retailers. They've had a pre-tax profit drop of 40%, some of that down to increasing business rates, but it's just that either end of the market, how finer margins these businesses are operating under, and small changes can really sway in terms of their ability to make a profit or even break even. Moving back onto the residential property market, we've got Nationwide have recently reported their figures for August 2023. House prices, according to their HPI, have fallen by 5.3%, which is the largest fall since July 2009 in that post-credit crunch, compounded this month by the month-on-month decrease of 0.8%. A real sharp fall there, Rob, just for that month of August. The drop in the annual figure of 5.3% is the 8th consecutive fall we've had this year, which Nationwide Building Society have reported. It's reduced the average cost of a house or property in Britain to 259,000, some reduction of 14,500 off the average figure, and it really does take some fairly seismic waves through the property market to cause a shift of quite that amount, Rob. So it was something which we were first discussing earlier in the year, the drop in some of the transaction volumes. Just on the flip side of that, the other main house price index commentator, aside from Her Majesty's Land Registry, Halifax, they're yet to release their August data. However, their last data set, annualised price reductions, were only at 2.4%, so less than half what nationwide were, whilst the UK average house price, according to Halifax, was 285, so seemingly bullish up against those nationwide statistics. And it's just interesting, Rob, how those data captures just differ from each other slightly. They're both saying obviously the market is softening and in most areas or reducing, however to slightly different severity levels.
Yeah, I mean, I think broadly a 2.5% to 5% decrease across the board is a fair reflection of where the market is, and I think it's no surprise. We, would have been reporting that 3, 4, 5 months ago, and a lot of the, especially the land registry information, as we know, is delayed, and August, supposedly taking the brunt of that, really is on the back of those sharp interest rate increments that we faced in May and June that finally took its toll in the market. Then you can have the seasonal adjustments of August that I'm sure will come into play when we get that data in September and October. So all in all, that trend is going to continue for a few months as that data catches up, but no surprises there.
Yeah. Like you say, Rob, it's just those economic and fiscal changes which have sparked some of the consumer confidence reactions, which we've seen filter through to the residential property market. Moving forward the next 6 to 12 months, I think we are going to see most definitely wage rises are going to increase a faster rate than property prices. As we've seen here, property prices are reducing 2.5% to 5% currently. That could get pushed out slightly further as of yet, with most regions decreasing or at least softening in terms of their prices. This should tip the scales in terms of affordability to hopefully favour buyers, which will hopefully see some of this activity return to the market in the autumn and through to the spring of next year, because as we see this market correction, Rob, wages are increasing. So just that affordability swing might just help some impetus be put back into the residential property market.
I also think that with the feeling now that we're possibly peaking with the interest rate position and the confidence of reaching that peak and knowing that it's not going to go beyond, within itself will give some positive sentiment and confidence for people to make acquisitions moving forward. And I'm relatively confident that that will be achieved in the last quarter of 2023 to allow for a better performing 2024. So I think that is something to look forward to, James.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And just wanted to touch on as well mortgage approvals. These are around 20% below the pre-pandemic level of the 2019 average. And in the first half of 2023, the number of completed house transactions was also nearly 20% below those pre-pandemic levels in 2019. We were first mentioning this back in April, Rob, which was probably the first month where things took a bit of a turn, and we really noticed things here on the ground in terms of our instructions from certain types of lenders, those high street banks, the lending position of them, and the amount of take-up in the market. And in terms of those transaction volumes, Zooplas also reported that the UK property sales are on track to fall to their lowest level in around a decade. So we'll have to assess that as the year goes on. We've had a sort of quiet spring, a bit of an uptick, and then a quiet summer. So it really is going to fall on the autumn to see how those markets recover.
Yeah, I think, again, like you said, it's something that we've discussed on the show. It was very clear at the outset that this year was going to struggle to hit anywhere near the historical volume of transactions. And I'd also say that having looked at the last 30 years and having worked through that period, there is normally a 2 or 3 year trend where those transaction numbers are much lower after a major event. And so if maybe the Liz Truss affair of 12 months ago now was a major event in the UK, we're now 1 year into that. And I think those low level of transactions and volumes will continue for a period of time. And that's broadly in line with historical context over a 30-year period.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Hopefully you enjoyed my autumn pun there. Obviously, next year as well, we could have an election at the end of next year, which is something which will start to build up in terms of press coverage. What the election and campaign promises are, how those are going to impact the property sector. Mainly it's going to focus around any taxation changes. Too early to tell if anyone's going to include that in their campaign. There is pressure in that buy-to-let space in terms of the high holding and purchase costs for those landlords, and the transitional switch we're going through at the moment in terms of build to rent. I'm sure it won't be a main sort of headline campaign trail, but in terms of the impact on the market, I feel like there will be something in there, and it will be discussed heavily over the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, and on a sports front, the Premier League season?
We're underway so far. Few surprises in there in terms of what we're seeing from teams. A few form teams. Poor Luton Town struggling as predicted. Man City very strong. Spurs, Liverpool probably performing slightly better than I expected. Liverpool covering defensive frailties at the back, aren't they, in terms of possible injuries, suspensions there. Man United yet to sort of get off the ground really. Didn't get the transfers they wanted in, and certainly those transfers they didn't get in early enough, which has affected them. Arsenal, obviously the win at the weekend, they're performing well. Hopefully they can challenge Man City this year. Possibly needed one more, Arsenal, in terms of they get a lot of goals from throughout the midfield, but in terms of a goal-scoring striker, so many teams need that. But Arsenal to challenge City, I think, really needed that to be shorter odds for the title.
And for all those fantasy footballers out there, is it Captain Haaland the whole way, or any other hacks out there, James?
Yeah, so a good start for the season for Brighton. Hat-trick for the young lad Ferguson. Won't be making an appearance for Ireland at the weekend on the international break, a small injury there apparently. What prospect he looks like. Newcastle started brightly but now faded, they're struggling. So we're going to have to see how a lot of teams recover after the international break. Hopefully most teams will avoid too many injuries to the depleted squad. We've got African Cup of Nations as well, not too far away, so that could impact the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, some of the Arsenal squad as well. So always an interesting dynamic in terms of how squads cope with that absence of players.
Yeah, definitely the Premier League are definitely not suffering from any cost of living crisis or economic challenges. The budgets and the spending are going up and up. A record transfer window, which although has closed, hasn't closed to certain other leagues around the world. So maybe next time we speak, there could have been another super 100 or even 200 million plus transfer. Great to be back with you all. Hope you are well. Keep contacting us. Keep sharing your thoughts and your ideas with us. Keep tracking that data and intel, and we will keep sharing everything with you, and we'll catch you soon on what will be the next edition after this, which will be 177 of Super Prime UK. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks very much, everyone.